here with your April 2019 forecast. Now, for those of you who want a short and sweet version of this, I'll give it to you quite quickly here. First week in April, just chill out, take it easy. It isn't time to do anything yet. It's the new moon in Aries. Chill. Middle of the month, tensions build. It's a very exciting, very charged time. And the end of the month, the last week from about the 22nd onward, I would say that that is a really very supercharged, somewhat difficult to deal with time where we're liable to sort of feel that we're almost out of control. I would say that probably starts someplace around the full moon on April 19th. Okay, but the truth of the matter is, there's no real reason to rush through this forecast because the first week in April is not a time to do very much. We start right out the first couple of days of the month with the moon in Pisces. Mercury, he's direct now, but he's meeting up with Neptune again. And it's just a very muddy time the first couple of days. And then the moon goes into Aries, which is great, but it's the new moon. So the energy is very, very low. This is a great time. The first week of the month is a great time to play. It's a great time to be creative about things. But, you know, process, not product. Improvise, play, throw out ideas. See what seems to work. See what, you know, doesn't appeal that much. But don't really look to get something accomplished. You just want to kind of play with the possibilities. It's a very intuitive time. It is, you know, I've been saying that it's the 4 a.m. of the year when it's Pisces season. Well, this is like, no, the sun has risen and it is kind of like you're waking up, but you're not quite out of bed just yet, you know. The new moon, rather, on April 5th, sort of represents the beginning of the year. It's the time when both the solar cycle is growing after the Aries equinox, and now the lunar cycle is going to be growing as well. So we have this sort of double go-ahead type of thing. That very day, though, the moon goes on to square Saturn, and you can sort of trip over yourself. Then the moon goes into Taurus for the weekend. Very pleasant, but the moon is still just starting to wax. This is really the whole time there, especially the time from, I would say, Wednesday on, from like about the 3rd to about the 7th, I would say, is just a time to kind of set your intentions, decide where you want to go and what you want to do. You know, just line things up within yourself, and then we can start getting going on the second week of the month. For sure, once we get past that the 7th and we get into the 8th and beyond, things are going to start popping. Ceres stations to retrograde on April 9th, Jupiter stations to retrograde on April 10th. As a matter of fact, we might as well mention right now that on April 24th, Pluto is going to station to retrograde, and then on the 29th, Saturn is going to station to retrograde. Now, these are not retrogrades like Mars and Venus and Mercury, which are less frequent and more personal. These planets are retrograde a good deal of the time, so their actual retrograde motion doesn't really mean that much. The actual stations to retrograde, however, right around those dates, those are likely to be a little bit more significant. Particularly at the beginning of the month, around the 9th and the 10th, we might feel this kind of enthusiasm, this energy. Even though Jupiter's stationing to retrograde, it's very powerful. It gives us a lot of feeling of going forward, of feeling of potential, of possibility, of the ability to consider what we want to go forward with, especially. Ceres is a little bit hard to figure out, especially when it comes to something like stationing retrograde. I think collectively it probably does have a lot to do with our sense of care for the Earth and things like that, but Ceres has more to do with other things that are a little bit more personal as well. It's a little bit hard for me to sort out right now, but I would say that Ceres probably has to do with those things that we feel we need to protect, those things that we need to be careful about. Pluto's station, on the other hand, by the time we get down the end of the month, the Pluto station and Saturn station, these are easy to deal with. Pluto stations increase the intensity, increase the sense of a power struggle, and Saturn, you know, it's a little bit different. It's a lot a bit different, but it feels kind of the same. There's this sort of decision time. What am I going to do? Where am I going to apply my energy? And what things are blocking me? So, the determination of the Pluto station and then the resistance of the Saturn station make the very end of the month very tense time. And we've only dealt with the retrogrades here. These are only dealing with retrograde type of questions. I should point out while we're here that right around April 29th, I would say, 26th, 27th, up until the 30th, are times when we tend to feel a bit of low resistance. It's not a great time for the immune system. It's not a great time for physical health. So you want to make sure that you get enough rest and you eat good foods. Don't overexpend yourself. Saturn stations are times when we kind of feel that we need to work, and Pluto may have given us some tasks to do. And so there's this sort of feeling that we need to do something, and we can kind of sort of burn out a little bit with these Saturn-Pluto stations. So, do take time to rest and take care of yourself. It's going to be a little bit hard because we are not far away from the full moon on the 19th. I'm giving this forecast kind of backwards, aren't I? Yeah, you'll be fine. The full moon on the 19th is in the sign of Libra. It's the second. It is the second full moon in Libra that we have for 2 months. That's because the first one was at 0 degrees Libra, and this one is at 29. Let me be a little precise here. It's 2906 Libra. So this is a kind of energy that is liable to get us thinking back to the past month's full moon, and let's say we're reflecting back on relationship things over the course of the past month, what's happened in relationship, but also too just in terms of sort of the demands that are on us in terms of some of our social I was going to say social necessities, and that's about right. Some of the things that we've had to do on the more formal side, including work things, the sort of social aspect of work. This is a sort of, this is a full moon that asks us, is diplomacy working, or do we need to take another approach? And with Pluto stationing fairly soon, if we need to take another approach, we'll do so. All right, so let's look a little bit earlier in the month. After the new moon, we have Jupiter opposite Juno on April 8th, stationing Jupiter opposite Juno in Gemini. This is liable to be right around the 7th and the 8th. I would go all the way to the 9th and the 10th. So the 7th to the 10th might be a time when we're sort of considering what we need in relationship, but maybe also this is something that we're kind of bargaining out with our partners. Again, it may take until the 19th till you really see what the results are, but this is a time when you're taking action in regards to relationship. And that could be a really good thing. That could be a little more stressful thing. The 10th is a very interesting time because we have 2 different flavors of the day. And that's the way, that's the way the cosmos works, We have this going forward energy of Aries this month, and then we have the retrogrades. We have, on the 10th, we have Venus conjunct Neptune in Pisces, a very romantic, flowing kind of aspect that is, it's good for getting lost in a dream, if not a reality. But it's good for, just experiencing things and letting things flow. On the same day, in incredible counterpoint, the Aries sun is going to square Saturn, and that is very much a kind of inhibiting, you gotta work, there are restrictions on you type of energy. And this is the way the cosmos does it. There's themes and counter themes. There's counterpoints that are in the base, and then there's melodies that are up on top. And it all makes for this, sometimes it's kind of melodic and sometimes it's sort of atonal stuff. But we're going to get those mixed messages there. I could see around this time something that seems like it's, just a lot of fun. We're just having a good time. All of a sudden trips over into, but what does this really mean? I think also, too, that, if in a work vein, we may find that there's a real sort of, there's deadlines that have to be met, and if we fail to meet deadlines, if you're a student, you haven't gotten your paper in, if you've got a report for work and it hasn't gotten done, we're liable to really be feeling it around this time. And it's funny because we might also feel like it would be, maybe we'll just escape from this. So that time from the 7th to the 10th There's a lot of mixed messages going on there. Uh, for some people, it'll mean you get a good start on things, you're feeling great, and thud. All of a sudden you get called to task. For others of us, it'll be that we're working hard on things and we sort of see a way out. We find a little escape hatch and take that. So it could go either way. It will go both ways. On the 13th, the Sun squares Pluto. Look and see what happens in politics and the collective around the 13th to the 15th, right around that middle of the month time. There's probably a lot of stuff going on that you're going to want to pay attention to on the collective level. On the personal level, here we have a little bit more of a struggle with those in authority. This is a little bit less of getting kind of pushed back by them. This is a little bit more the energy of, let's say, pushing back against restrictions. If you're on solid ground, if you know what you're talking about, if you've got a good point, you can probably actually succeed. And let's not use terms like win or lose, but you could win this time around. So some of the constrictions that we feel around the 10th might wind up pushing us to push past them at mid-month. Here's another thing that's happening at mid-month. 14th and 15th, Venus tangles with both Pluto and Jupiter. If you're in a relationship type of situation that is going pretty well, this is a pretty good energy. If you're in one that is a little bit more tenuous and a little bit more dicey, this could be a little bit of an explosion type of time. Not a big explosion, I don't think, to tell you the truth, but it would be something that would be worth paying attention to. Again, it could be the 19th, a few days later, when you really see the results of it. So this is an active time, 13th, 14th, 15th, right at mid-month, very active time, particularly in relationships. This is a time to get those feelings out there, let folks know what's going on. Jupiter is square to Venus, but the way the signs work, it's pretty good. And these two planets really get along pretty well with each other under any circumstances, so I'm not terribly worried about it. Still, Jupiter opposite Juno around the 8th to the 10th, and then just a couple of days later, we've got this Venus-Jupiter thing. Relationships are very active in the second week of the month. See what happens around the 19th. That's the time when we're going to sort of get the denouement, the end of the story. Probably not the end of the story, mind you. It's probably just another chapter in the story. The Sun meets up with Uranus on the 22nd in Taurus. This is the Sun meeting up with Uranus, and this does two things. From a solar perspective, which is sort of the everyday perspective that you and I are going to be most in tune with, the time from about the 20th, when the Sun goes into Taurus, to the 22nd or the 23rd is a time when we really don't want constraints on us. We really want to do what we want to do. There's a little bit of impatience, but there's also this kind of like, I'm going to go do it type of energy, which is really good. The collective level, it's showing us what Uranus and Taurus is all about. So we'll probably be looking at things around finances and food supply and just general embodiment as an issue. This is a big topic, and you can check out the video on Uranus and Taurus to get more on that. But this is a time to keep an eye on the collective, see what's going on there, although having patience for that is a big open question. Again, Pluto goes on to station, so we're already feeling that Plutonian energy during this period of time. There's only a couple of days between, and Pluto is a slow mover, so we feel that tensions build and release, and that's really the whole back end of April. Really after about, I would say, the mid-month, that's what the month is about. It's about tension and release, tension and release. Doesn't sound that entirely bad. Some tension and release stuff is pretty good, isn't it? So, to recap, first week in the month, you're just sort of setting your intentions. You are looking at what's going on. You're planning for the future, but you're not pushing very hard. Second week of the month, a little bit more active time. You've got a good sense of control about things through mid-month. after mid-month, as we get towards the latter half of the month, things get a little bit more out of control. You have periods when you can steer through things okay, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that's sort of bubbling up at that time. You're going to there's a sort of need to multitask. Fortunately, Mars is in Gemini for the entire month until May 1st, I'm pretty sure. And that gives us an opportunity to, no, until May 15th. It gives us an opportunity to multitask. You're going to need to multitask this month. But there's a lot of good times. There's probably a lot of good times. There's certainly a lot of good opportunities for good times. Relationships are really highlighted this month. In terms of work, it's probably the back end of the month when you get a lot of tasks, but also the ability to handle them. All right. Okay, catch the weekly forecast because that unpacks things a little bit more. Follow on Facebook. That gives you a daily guide. Sign up. Go to the website. Sign up for weekly forecasts. That's probably the best way to handle the energy of this month. But it's a good time to do stuff. It's a good time to feel that we're moving forward. We're not in that sort of Piscean bog anymore. And that in and of itself ought to be great. Catch you next month.